I heard the crash before I'd even poured my morning coffee. A sickening scrape of metal on concrete tore through the air, followed by a blaring honk that sent my dog yelping under the table. My heart raced as I bolted to the front door, already bracing for the worst. And there she was, Linda, the neighborhood tyrant, her SUV half on my lawn, its front bumper nestled into my flower bed like it belonged there. She stood outside, arms crossed, her face contorted with fury as if I'd personally insulted her entire existence. "What the hell is this?" she screeched, jabbing a finger at the low wooden fence I'd installed just yesterday. "You blocked my shortcut. I've been using this driveway for months. Do you have any idea how much time I waste going the long way?" I stared at her, speechless. My driveway. My property. And she was screaming at me like I'd trashed her car instead of the other way around. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my tone steady. "Linda, this is my driveway, not a public road. You don't have the right to cut through here." She scoffed, flicking her manicured hand like I was a pesky fly. "That's absurd. The HOA allows it. Everyone knows this is the quickest way out of the neighborhood. Why are you being so difficult?" I fought the urge to laugh at the sheer lunacy of it. "The HOA doesn't own my property, Linda. I do. And I'm tired of you treating my driveway like your personal freeway." Her face darkened, and she leaned in, her voice dropping to a patronizing whisper. "Listen, Hon, I don't care what rules you think apply. I've lived here for 15 years. You're just a newbie trying to stir things up. It won't work. This shortcut's always been here and always will be." My fists clenched. This woman was unbelievable. For months, I'd watched her speed through my yard, tearing up my gravel path without a care. I'd tried everything: cones she'd tossed aside, a gate she'd knocked down, even footage of her trespassing sent to the HOA, only to get shrugs and excuses. "Linda's been here forever. We can't change things now," they'd said. And now she stood here, acting like I was the villain for stopping her. "I'm calling the HOA," she snapped, yanking out her phone. "They'll handle this." I let out a humorless laugh. "Go ahead. Let's see how that goes." She glared, then stomped back to her SUV, struggling to back out of my lawn, leaving muddy tire tracks behind. I watched her speed off, my blood simmering, hands shaking. This wasn't just about a driveway anymore. This was war. Later that afternoon, an email from the HOA popped up, not for Linda, but for me. "Dear homeowner," it read, "we've received complaints about unauthorized modifications to community access pathways. Your recent fence has been deemed disruptive to neighborhood traffic patterns. Please remove it immediately to maintain community harmony." I stared at the screen, fury bubbling up. Unauthorized modifications? Community harmony? They were siding with her. I stormed to the HOA office, ready to unload, but when I walked in, there she was, Linda, smirking in the corner, chatting with the board like they were best buddies. She shot me a triumphant look as if she'd already won. "Mr. Carter," the HOA president, Mr. Grayson, said, barely glancing up from his papers, "we were just discussing your, landscaping changes." I crossed my arms. "You mean the fence I put up to stop Linda from illegally driving through my yard?" A few awkward coughs rippled through the room. One board member piped up, "It's just that Linda's been using that path for years. It's kind of a neighborhood tradition." I couldn't believe my ears. "So my property's community property now? She has no right to use my driveway." Grayson cleared his throat. "Well, technically no, but nothing," I cut in. "You're saying she can ruin my lawn, endanger my family, and you're backing her because of tradition?" Linda let out a fake laugh. "Oh, come on, it's just a shortcut. You're being dramatic." I took a slow breath, forcing calm. I could argue all day and get nowhere. The HOA was in Linda's pocket, and they weren't budging. I needed a new plan, something bigger, something to ensure she'd never touch my property again. That night, I sat on my porch, staring at the torn-up grass where her SUV had plowed through. My mind churned with ideas. A taller fence. She'd dodge it. Motion sensors? She'd complain. Cameras with alarms? Not enough. Then it hit me, a slow, wicked grin spreading across my face. A hedge maze. Not just any maze, a dense, twisting labyrinth to trap her like a rat. I could already see it. Towering green walls, dead ends, maddening turns. If Linda wanted my property as her shortcut, let's see how she liked getting lost in it. The next morning, I called a landscaper who specialized in fast-growing hedges. When I explained my idea, he chuckled. That's the pettiest thing I've ever heard. I love it. And just like that, the plan was rolling. I spent days planning every detail. This wouldn't be a simple barrier, it'd be a full-on puzzle of frustration. I chose Japanese boxwood, thick, resilient, perfect for shaping into a green fortress. The landscaper was all in. "Well, make sure your unwanted guest regrets stepping foot here," he said with a grin. Work started fast. We designed it to lure her in a driveway entrance that looked normal until she hit a fork, one path to a dead end, another looping back. Then it got worse: hidden turns, tight corners, fake exits. By day 3, the maze was taking shape. I could already picture Linda's face when she tried her shortcut and found herself stuck. That evening, sipping coffee on my porch, I saw her SUV creep by. She hadn't tried my driveway since our last clash, but I knew she was waiting, thinking the HOA would make me dismantle the fence. I just smiled. Let her think she'd won. By week's end, the maze was done, still growing, but confusing enough to work. I added a sign, "Shortcut closed. Welcome to the maze of doom." The next morning, I heard her SUV's familiar rumble. She sped in, confident as ever, until she hit the maze. I peeked out my window, grinning as her brake lights flickered. She backed up, tried another path, then another, each a dead end. Her horn blared once, twice, like it'd part the hedges. I stifled a laugh. Minutes later, she stormed out of her car, stomping through the maze on foot. Even better, I leaned against my porch railing, watching her vanish behind a hedge, only to pop out where she'd started, groaning in fury. She tried again, same result. Beautiful. Finally, she spotted me and charged over, finger wagging. "This is harassment." I raised an eyebrow. "Harassment? I didn't make you drive in there, Linda. That was all you. You know what you did," she hissed. "This is an abuse of landscaping. I'm reporting you." "An abuse of landscaping?" I whistled. "That's creative. Go ahead, report me." She growled and stormed off. I knew she wouldn't quit. Twist this somehow. Sure enough, the next morning, an HOA email arrived. Reports of an obstruction and disrupting neighborhood pathways. Remove the hedge structure or face action. I laughed. They were trying so hard. I fired back. "The maze is on my private property, fully legal, and enhances the aesthetic. Check the zoning laws." They had no power here, and I'd make sure they knew it. That afternoon, Linda marched over while I trimmed the hedges. "The HOA will make you tear this down," she snapped. I shrugged. "Doubt it. It's all within the rules." She switched tactics, softening her tone. "Look, I don't want to fight. The shortcut's been here forever. You're inconveniencing everyone." "Everyone?" I gestured to the empty street. "Where's the mob, Linda? All I see is you, mad you can't cut through my yard." She stormed off, jaw clenched. But she wasn't done. The next day, I caught her at the maze entrance with garden shears, ready to hack through. "Linda," I called, "check the rules about damaging private property before you start." She froze, then huffed away. That evening, she called the cops. Red and blue lights flashed outside as she stood there, smug, with 2 confused officers. "Officers," she cooed, "I'd like to report an obstruction." I explained. She used to drive through my driveway. I built a maze to stop her. "A hedge maze?" one officer asked, blinking. "Yep." He turned to Linda. "Is it on his property?" "That's not the point," she sputtered. "It's a disturbance." The officer sighed. "Ma'am, do you have a legal right to his driveway?" She faltered. "No," I said, smiling. "Then there's no crime," he said. "It's his land." Linda fumed as they left. "This isn't over." I grinned. She was desperate now, and desperate people always messed up worse. The next morning, Mr. Grayson, the HOA president, showed up with Linda smirking beside him. "We voted," he said. "Your maze is an obstruction. Remove it within a week or face fines." I handed him a folder: zoning laws, city regs, a lawyer's note proving why my maze was legal. His face paled. Linda soured. "The HOA has authority," she insisted. "Over shared spaces," I said. "Not my land." Grayson sighed. "We'll re-VYEW this." "Take your time," I said. "But if you find me, I'll sue for harassment." Linda hissed, "This isn't over," and stormed off. 2 days later, she hired landscapers to tear it down. I stepped out as they unloaded. "I've hired professionals," she sneered. "Time to grow up." One worker hesitated. "Ma'am, are you the owner?" "I'm on the HOA board," she snapped. "That's not what I asked," he said. "She's not," I said. I am. Sorry, ma'am, he said. We can't touch it. Linda grabbed clippers and marched toward the maze. I pulled out my phone. Keep going, Linda. Let's see how much you wreck before the cops arrive. She froze, then threw the clippers down with a scream and fled. I smiled. She was out of moves, but I'd underestimated her. That night, my security feed caught her hacking at the maze with shears. I found her in the center, sweating, surrounded by chopped hedges. This is illegal, she spat. You trespassed and vandalized my property, I said, filming. That's illegal. You forced me, she yelled. I called the cops. She tried to run, got lost, and collapsed on my driveway. The footage sealed it was arrested for trespassing and damage. The HOA ditched her reputation tanked, and my maze became a hit. Kids played in it. Families loved it. On Halloween, I turned it into a haunted maze huge success. Linda stayed quiet, peeking from her blinds. Then one night, I saw her step into the maze. She wandered, got lost, and groaned in defeat. I smiled and shut my door. Some people never learn.